Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name's Ron Rimmer. I'm with DNS. We're going to have one of our very good friends and former colleagues from DNS, Sam Newnam, give a presentation about Hyper Converged. Feel free to be as open and interactive as you want. Sam is a senior partner engineer with Nutanix. Is that right? Something?
Yeah, that's my wisdom growing in there.
Is that what that is? This is a fairly new topic that people have started to hear some information about. We want you to ask questions. We want you to engage. We want you to know about the technology. So Sam is with Nutanix, obviously, so he will speak to their presentation of what they do and the technology sort of writ large. So thank you for coming, and hope you enjoyed the conference, and hope you enjoyed Sam's presentation. Sam?
Appreciate it. We do welcome this morning. I appreciate it. It's 8:30 in the morning. I know I was kind of like, wait, we got the first speaking slot, right? Apparently the 9:30 is a cousin. But just in case you're curious, we are on the schedule twice today, just to clarify. So you'll see us this morning, and then you'll see another one at 1:15 in Tech Track. So that one is more trending. So we're talking agnostically about hyperconverged, about what's coming up in the industry, what's happening. Talking about Legos and peanut butter and jelly. So if you sit through this one, you're going to hear a different message this afternoon. So don't feel like it's a double back-to-back kind of thing. If I still all the oxygen in the room this morning, everybody's going to fall asleep. We're going to walk out of here drowsy. So I appreciate questions, interaction, those kind of things. Feel free to pause me, stop me. We're going to take kind of a journey through what Nutanix is, what we're seeing in cloud, why this hyper-converged era is kind of even here. And step back through how we started, where we came from, where we're headed. So usually I try to get people to think differently in the morning. So we look from the way Albert Einstein put it, that we can't solve today's problems with the same things we used to create them. So as we look forward in the data centers, we look at what we've been challenged with over time. We're like, we have to take a different approach. We always take this traditional mindset. As humans, we want to understand things in the same way that we know already. So if it looks like a spider and it acts like a spider, it's probably a spider. We talked about spiders this morning. I put one on Facebook, a huge one in the corner of the window the other day. But if we look at something that only had 6 legs, we say, is that still a spider? Well, it kind of walks like a spider. It may have more than 2 eyes. And we start getting this whole thing. But we always try to understand things from the same principle we started. But what we want to talk about is the era of cloud a little bit. So King Bezos has done a great job at capturing our attention. You can swipe a credit card, you can get a VM, it happens in 5 minutes, it's kind of easy. We've got this instant on kind of consumerization of mentality bleeding over into the data center. We want rapid time to market. It's not weeks, days, months of provisioning things. I want it in a couple hours. I need 10 more terabytes. I need another 4 gigs of RAM. How do I get that? We want this one-click simplicity. So part of us loves putting data center together. I was one of them. Big part of my career. Nice, tight cabling, everything labeled perfectly. It was a pride point for us. And there was also this point that I didn't realize that there was some application owner, some IT director, somebody waiting on me to finish that. I was taking my time. I wanted to be perfect. But the reality is there was a business sitting on the other side of that that needed to use that equipment. Because they talk about continuous innovation. We all have smartphones today. How many times a month do you get an update for an app or for the phone itself? We see new features coming in, all kinds of stuff happening quickly. Software is outpacing what we can do with the hardware design longer. And then this fractional consumption. We've all been through this process, right? As bars and vendors and manufacturers come in front of you, they drag you through a parking lot full of broken glass. How many VMs do you have? How much terabyte? What's your growth rate year over year? We're like, I don't know, this trending capacity, like I'm just trying to keep the stuff up. Like I don't know how many more people we're going to add, if we're going to hire 100 new people this year. It's hard. So we try to take this fractional consumption method to say, well, what if I could buy exactly what I needed today? And then tomorrow I could go buy the 3 more I needed. Not having to plan or do this kind of repurposing. When we talk about the workloads we see going to cloud, because we all hear about cloud. How do we use cloud? How do we take AWS? How do we move our workflows? Is this something you guys have conversation about in your workplace today? You're looking at cloud mobility, or how do I shift applications to be known? Is that part of the challenges you run into today? I see some heads nodding. Part of it's saying, well, how do you know that application will run in the cloud? And we always hear about cloud being cheaper until we usually get there. We actually do a lot of projects to move people out of cloud. DNS does it all the time. To say, hey, there's this app. It's up here. Now I'm looking at this bill of $2,000, $10,000 a month. And those are predictable workloads that are causing that trouble. So we start trying to classify applications. We look at a new social media app, something new that HR and marketing wants to try in your organization. We don't know how many users it's going to be. We don't know what the real data rate is. But we try to shift that stuff over. And it's a great place to start in the cloud. But once that becomes predictable, Once we know that service has to be up 24/7, those CPU cycles in the cloud can get kind of expensive. So we look at how do we bring that back in-house, or how do we mitigate those costs that exist in the cloud.
How much of a trend is that?
So we see this happening all the time. And as we look at where things are application-wise, very few apps we see are actually truly elastic, right? If you look at things like social media applications, e-commerce, different things, seasonal traffic, works great in that burstability type things. But Exchange, SQL, all these servers that run real time in the cloud that always have to be on, you get into situations where your burning processor, whether those users are logged in or not, you don't shut that SQL server down at night. It's still running until people log back in at 8 o'clock in the morning. So in a lot of ways, you're paying for compute you're not actually using. So that's part of the thing is we look at, oh, cloud's easier, but we also look at the charges that come across with those CPU-based things. So we talked a little bit about what we want from the data center, what we see in cloud, and how do we match that with the things we get from on-prem today. So this fractional consumption mentality, this instant delivery, visible operations, but we just click a button and have a VM. I don't have to worry about runs and volumes and all this kind of stuff. We desire this type of operation out of our infrastructure. But then we still have to deal with these control things. So how much of this do I put in the cloud? What are the prices? How do I balance this rent versus own? We do this in daily life. Do I lease a car? Do I buy a car? We go through this in all types of things. Do I rent an apartment? Do I buy a house? We start making these decisions in everyday life. We do the same thing inside the data center. Data access and governance. You guys don't have to deal with like compliance or security and that kind of stuff. It's not a big deal. I figured that. We'll skip that. SLAs for every app. Nobody walks in and says, hey, is my app on server 23, on 111, on that EMC array coming back up? No, they say, when's my app back up? So we really care about this SLA for applications and all kinds of stuff. Not about infrastructure, not about replication schedules and snapshots and all kinds of stuff. We understand apps. You talk about LUNs and all kinds of stuff to most business owners, application owners, middle-level managers. They think you're cussing at them. It's kind of a disconnected language. And then we talk about choice and freedom for lock-in. As you buy technology choices and you get tied into different platforms or different software vendors or different hardware vendors, what if we really could move things in and out of the cloud? What if we can move them between hypervisors? What if we could push and pull them from different hardware vendors? This is where we're starting to get to the age of saying, look, I can use what I need to when it makes sense. And this is what we're really seeing. Do you guys kind of agree? These are the trends we're seeing in technology today, at least the desires we have. So part of this is the ad we ran in Forbes and the Wall Street Journal and stuff, because this is kind of where we see this crossroads coming. So we understand what VMware's provide us today, and the virtualization and the safety of our four walls and what we do inside the data center. Match with the things that AWS is giving us, this flexibility, this fractional consumption. And we really feel like our product helps you guys meet in the middle. So call it a gap filler, call it a vision, completeness, when you can actually put definitions behind things like fabrics and clouds and hybrid clouds and that kind of stuff. And so we're going to dive a little deeper through some of the technology and some of the vision we have tied to these things. So the journey inside Nutanix takes a couple steps, and we'll cover these as we talk. Part of our first phase was making infrastructure invisible. We wanted everything below that hypervisor to disappear. So what if you could actually just create a VM and not have to worry about which LUN or volume or data server was on to match some snapshot policy? Was there enough performance, capacity, all kinds of stuff? What if it was really just create VM? That's what you do in the cloud today. You don't go through all these metrics to determine where you want your VM running inside Amazon cloud. You just create a VM. You let something else handle that for you automatically. We've seen this happen in semi-trucks today. You used to take a drive for 18 years. You went through everything. Now we've gotten into automatic transmissions and they're GPS controlled. It looks at the elevation coming up the hill and downshifts automatically. We've learned to let technology do these things for us. What if we could bring that inside the data center? The next step we took was to make virtualization invisible. And so as we talked about this, people are like, oh, why did you guys create a new hypervisor? What's this thing I hear about AHV and all this kind of stuff? Well, as we looked at the market, we kind of took that same principle to say, well, we see the hypervisor becoming new sheet metal, new commoditization. When you swipe that credit card in Amazon, how many people in the room know what hypervisor Amazon runs? It's Zen under the covers. They use open source Zen to build their environment. But most people don't know. They don't care. They swipe their credit card, they turn a VM on. So as we look into the data center, what do we need out of hypervisor? We need some sort of HA. If something fails, we need to reboot. We've got to have some sort of vMotion, so we can move some things around, performance adjustments, maintenance, those kind of things. We need some networking, right? Because to be a server, what do you have to do? Serve something. But outside of that, maybe we need a little bit of advanced functionality and updates and taking care of stuff. But we've become just to expect the basic things out of a hypervisor. So what's all the other stuff that comes with the ones you buy today? You use the tools, all the different analytics, all kinds of stuff. So we look at what that looked like, but to really make that virtualization layer invisible as well. Thirdly, we will make cloud invisible. So as we get into this third phase where we really are in our product journey, is to be able to take workloads and DR to the cloud and use that to actually turn workloads up. Not just take snapshot copies, but you'll see later in the year we'll actually start using that to turn workloads live. To be able to move VMs back and forth. You hear these things about fabrics and hybrid clouds, and I'll talk about it here in a little bit. But as we actually take real workloads and move them to and from the cloud, exporting from Amazon today or Azure is actually a huge pain. It's a great business model. It's Hotel California. Put your VM up there, getting it back out, you might as well export data. There's not really an export policy. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Amazon came up with this nice new snowball cube. You can export everything out of S3. Looks like one of the big radiation carriers, all kinds of stuff. Lockdown's kind of fun. If you haven't looked at it, go Google it. But it's very hard to get data back from cloud. They want you to live up there, not actually move things back and forth. So let's talk about technology and the evolution of the data center a little bit. So how many of you guys did technology in the early 90s? I did. I got it with them, I promise you. Has that diagram changed? So as we look at RAID technology and all kinds of stuff, as SANs became prominent, you know what else came out? Bag phone. We had bag phone. Those things were cool. I didn't have one. My dad had one, right? Had a nice 2-watt antenna on the side of the car. You could service anywhere. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing. You actually carry a phone with you. But those two technologies came out at the same time. You've seen where we've gone with smartphones, and this is where we still are with data center today. Now we've gotten faster. We've added flash, all kinds of stuff in there. The real innovation we've seen is that virtualization layer. We went from those siloed applications, 1 app per server, and all of a sudden we got density inside virtualization in 2003. And the same vendor started screaming because all of a sudden VMware said, hey, we need some shared storage in the background. We need to be able to actually have this HA thing function. And they're like, great, we go from cheap and deep to performance storage. Now we've got flash arrays and all kinds of stuff. But the actual design hasn't changed. We're still dealing with all the networking complexities, all the fabric complexities, fan in, fan out, queue depth, everything that we deal with, get into iSCSI and QoS and separate traffic domains to protect these things from performance. But what if we could do something a little different? What if we could smash server, compute, and that connection fabric into a single box? And forget about all the stuff we used to deal with. This is the vision we have. This is making that infrastructure invisible. And then not only that, but instead of having to add new storage controllers, new switches, new cables and stuff, what if I could scale by simply adding another one of these magical boxes into our environment? I can shrink, but scaling is more fun. We run that same virtualization layer. So Nutanix today is the only Hyper Converged player that can do ESX, Hyper-V, or our own native hypervisor, what we call AHV, Process Hypervisor. So as we look at what this whole thing is, what if we could actually move that virtualization layer back in? What if that was one more thing that you didn't have to deal with? What do your users actually care about? Usually those application things. The rest of it's keeping lights on. Like, I kind of hate it. I was a SAN guy for a long time in my career. So I started in web development, SQL, Oracle, MongoDB, all these web development languages. I learned SAN backwards because I got to be a performance engineer. Because everybody was writing these great queries that didn't know how to use joins and table scans and all kinds of stuff. But I had to learn all the undercover things of IOPS and all these Kahuna domains and how these things work in the back end of storage from a database perspective. But I got to the point where I'd walk in, I was like, I'm a SAN guy. I can fix your performance problem. I built my career off that for a number of years, so I realized like, it doesn't have to be that crazy. There's something that actually works the way it's supposed to. Today, when I take a video and send it to my grandmother, I don't have to call her and talk for an hour and a half about clicking the right button and all kinds of stuff. She pulls up on her phone, she picks play, and it works every single time. There's an expectation that's flowing. Why can't we have that same expectation and stuff inside our data center? So on the left, this is what we've always done. We pick some top of rack switch, right? Some storage vendor, Pure, Nimble, whatever's on the market today. We've got some sort of connecting fabric, whether it's iSCSI, SAN. We get to server vendors, and we may or may not have extra 10 gig cards and HBAs and all kinds of stuff. We get a choice of hypervisor on top of it, all to run those little things called applications. So we talked about this. Apps are what matters, what drives value to the business, all kinds of stuff. The rest of this is supporting infrastructure. So we really can make this simple. We can take the whole thing into one single platform. Sort of makes sense. The vision I saw is one reason I came to work here. Did some of the largest flex pods, V-blocks, all kinds of stuff on the East Coast. all kinds of fun interaction applications and tier 1 apps and tier 0 apps and the craziness. I'm like, why can't we really get to this building point of data center? So let's talk a little bit about what this looks like, why we did it. So when Google started, you guys know what the predominant search engine was? Yeah. Everybody had one of those email addresses. That's Hotmail, right? Microsoft tried to, but it's a little later. Google said, look, we can't build the same traditional 3-tier architecture that IQ's running off of today, right? Huge NetApp customer, large reference customer for NetApp. And they're like, we don't have the billions to do this. We've got to find a different way. So here came the Google file system, these commodity servers. Today, an administrator inside Google is responsible for 2,000 servers. He's usually a college intern. He's pushing a cart down the path, looking for orange lights, pull and dry, put it back in, and turn it. This is this idea of fail-fast infrastructure. We don't have to have these individual server management, individual components. What if it could actually heal itself? So this is where our founders came from scale-up companies like Oracle and Google. It's like, how do we bring these same things to enterprise, to SMB, to government, to the mom and pop accounting shop that doesn't want to have to deal with this? So the whole idea behind this is we wanted these always-on distributed systems. So today, when your significant other calls you and the internet doesn't work, how does she know? How does he know that happened? They usually say, I went to Google, and it didn't come up, or I pinged Google and I didn't get a response. And what we don't realize is today we've learned to trust Google's infrastructure so much that if we can't reach them, we assume it's our problem. It's an internet connection issue, it's a wireless issue, something. It can't be Google. Google's never down. When's the last time Amazon scheduled a maintenance window? They haven't. And they've had outages, right? We are in IT because things break. That's life. But as we look at this infrastructure, this web scale technology, self-healing is designed to always be on. So as I lose drives or servers or components, I care less about that impact on my organization. We also wanted to get away from the design of what the traditional four-foot upgrades in infrastructure. We use commodity hardware. So no special purpose appliances. I don't have to go through tooling and dyeing and all this kind of fun stuff and all this beta testing. We've had large storage manufacturers in history who literally were replacing motherboards because they have beta particles bleeding from silicon on the front side to the back side, causing data corruption. Why not just let server manufacturers do what they do well, create servers? And what if we moved all the innovation into software? So we don't have to worry about how quickly you replace those hardware pieces, but it's literally a one-click upgrade to get the new features, to get something faster, to get something added to your environment. And we hear a lot about durable endpoints and all kinds of distributed services. So today, unless you've configured vCenter correctly, it's a single point of failure inside your environment. That server goes down if you have a problem with SQL or whatever. You still got some HA, right? They fix that after 5.5, but the ability to create a VM, move a VM, do all kinds of stuff is gone until that server comes back up. We wanted to design a platform that worked no matter what happened. So we talked a little bit about predictable scale. You're going to hear me say this a lot, because as we get into this, we'll talk about our architecture. We add compute, storage, capacity as we add each of these nodes into our environment. So what that means is I choose to do these things. As I start small with, say, 400 users in an environment, I can literally add another node, another server into our environment. Say every server I can get 100 VDI desktops, or 20 virtual machines, or 50 virtual machines. So instead of having the budget for the next 5 years, 3 years, whatever that plan is based on some accounting procurement things, what if I actually said, hey, for every 100 people we add, it's going to cost us $22,000. It's changing the way we think about IT. It's not making guesstimates and going through all this stuff. And not only as I continue to add that stuff, I don't get into this weird spot where I bought a shelf of disks and the first 100 users run fine. User 500 starts going slow as I become spindle bound. I have to add another shelf, and I keep doing the stair-step method as I go through. What if I could actually give you linear, predictable performance? Because on the back side of this, users are doing what? Opening Outlook, applications, all kinds of stuff. We all know where our jobs are driven from. It's not from the C-level executives and all kinds of stuff. It's the people who are actually clicking those applications. If my spinning wheel takes 3 seconds longer than it did yesterday, it's ticket time, right? Somebody's got to look at this when they come in the door. So if we could actually take that away, if we could solve the people problem by meeting expectations, this is what the whole world's based off of. You guys have significant others, right? Have you ever not met expectations? That's what it comes down to. It happens in our jobs, too. So as we really look at this, we think about solving business problems with technology. So many times we look at technology from speeds and feeds and bits and bytes and how many cables and ports and all kinds of stuff. But it's like, what is it actually doing to change our organization? not just meet needs, but actually shift the way we look at things inside our business practice itself. So looking at scaling from 300 users to 3,000 users by simply adding a piece of hardware that takes me less than 30 minutes for every 100 users I want to put in. No crazy PS, no months of downtime, no weekends, no nights, no any of that kind of stuff. What if it was literally that, and I guaranteed you that you never saw a move inside those latency times, response times, login per second. So this is login BSI for us. It's simple. So let's talk about what we actually are. We're going through a couple of marketing slides. Let's talk about some technology, because we still have to run on that thing called a server. So for us, our chassis, our box, if you want to call it, we call it 10. It's nothing more than 2 power supplies and some shared fans. So no software to upgrade on this, anything. Inside of those, we have a couple different configurations. We can do 4 servers into you, 2 servers into you, or 1 server into you. So it depends. We've got over 100 different configurations we can design into to meet those workload needs. Some are processor heavy, RAM heavy, storage heavy. We'll talk about some of that stuff. You guys are familiar with the server, right? We've been doing this since A+ certification days for these processors. Nothing crazy here. Some CPU, RAM, SSD, hard drive, and little network connectivity. So in front of those servers are a couple drives. So again, no shared backplane. Each of the servers owns drives in the front of that server. It's really direct attached storage. The magic comes in, we run this little thing called a CVM, controller virtual machine. So the hypervisor itself doesn't see those drives. We own that SCSI bus. Think of it as pass-through. But it's how we actually control the drives. We extract those from the servers. We put them in one big storage pool. No more RAID. We're thinking about this, 7+1, RAID DP, how many IOPS, how does this work? One big pool. Nothing you manage. We take care of it. It's all automatic. We simply create a data store out of that. So for us, it's NFS for ESX, it's SMB3 for Hyper-V, and it's iSCSI for our built-in hypervisor. Those protocols each had different methods or different effects on that hypervisor. We chose that protocol. For us, it's just a simple thing. Do you want it in blue or green? We present that to the hypervisor, and we run VMs. It's real complicated. We'll do it again. One storage pool, one data store. Present to the hypervisor. We run VMs. I appreciate your time today. You guys have any questions? It's not that simple, right? So there's really a lot more to this. Well, let's talk about some of this architecture and how we do things. So it takes us 3 servers to start, 3 nodes. Any clustered file system, anything that has to have a witness, an arbitrator, in any tiebreaker type situation, and true inside a true clustered file system. So every time we add those, we add both IOPS and storage, right? Scale out, scale up, capacity, performance, any method or methodology you want to call those things in today's world. And we can literally add 1 server at a time. So every time I add that server, I'm adding more storage, more performance. But what if my environment needs storage only? We have the ability to deliver those too. So we have nodes that add capacity just to the environment. Doesn't take a hypervisor license. Doesn't show up, doesn't do anything. Literally joins that cluster uninterrupted to the rest of the day-to-day operations, but all of a sudden you've got 30 more terabytes sitting inside your environment. So as you look at different pieces on the market, different competitors, different things that come out, the storage only becomes a big deal. How many times are your environments bound by CPU? We've got plenty of that laying around, to be honest. I mean, most times we go through different stuff, we're like, yeah, I've got plenty of servers, I need more storage, I need more shelf, I need that something. We see capacity being a huge driver inside environments. Data growth is not slow. But again, so mix and match 100 different configurations, and we can choose to add how much performance, how much capacity every time we continue to scale that environment. So what does this mean for you guys? That means the next application that comes along, or the next upgrade, or the next 911 app, or the next HR, or accounting, or some type of document management system that comes out. You don't have to think, how do I scale in big chunks? You think, what do I need for this application? We can mix and match any nodes inside our environment. So we have very small nodes, single socket boxes, low RAM configurations, through large 22-core boxes with 768 gigs of RAM. I can mix and match those and purpose build my environment based on the applications that need to run on it. We scale in a node fashion. So every time I add a node, I actually get faster, better, my recovery times improve, all this kind of stuff. 3 nodes is probably our worst day, to be honest. Every time I've added this, not only most traditional SANs have two storage controllers. Right? Have you guys done upgrades on your SANs and stuff? Kind of a pucker factor late at night. When's the last time you actually transpassed those ones back and forth and did a controller takeover? You're like, okay, I hope this works. So if not, my entire environment's running on a single storage controller until I can get that back up through support. We start with a minimum of 3 storage controllers. More than likely 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, however big my environment gets. So my failure domains, the way I choose to handle data inside of my environment gets better as I get larger. Not to mention, all the VMs on that hypervisor use storage from that CVM. We play in what's called data locality. So today, companies like Pranks Data and all kinds of stuff, Fusion IO for a long time, tried to move data closer to the CPU. Why? Because it's faster. So what if we could give you the best of both worlds? What if we could give you all these features and functionalities that you expect inside an enterprise storage system? Snapshots, cloning, deduplication, compression, all these things that have become common mantra in today's conversations, along with the ability to actually move that storage closer to the hypervisor to reduce access time, latency, performance. I don't get into this idle bottleneck that I experienced with traditional 3-tier architecture, where I could have any number of hosts all slamming their I/O in through a couple controllers. What if I distributed this? What if I started caring less about performance because it's spread across my cluster? So we'll talk a little bit about inside the Nutanix world. You're going to 2 different terms. You'll hear DFS, or Distributed Storage Fabric, and you'll hear AFS, or App Mobility Fabric. And Distributed Storage Fabric, think of everything inside the cluster. So we have to handle data and caching and all this kind of fun stuff, part of the nature, but that's a nice automatic transmission that you shouldn't have to touch. Part of this is we get into getting beyond that. We're like, okay, we got phase 1 done. Things are invisible. It works like it's supposed to. So then we injected this hypervisor thing, and we said, okay, well, if we can give HA and all this kind of fun stuff and not have the VTAX and all that stuff associated with it, that can be appetizing to a lot of people. Hypervisor's not as important as it used to be. You kind of get virtualization. It work. But now the trouble is I have an app sitting in the cloud I want back, or I have a cloud sitting in my data center that I want to move, or maybe I'm looking at hypervisor choices. So what if I don't want ESX anymore, and Hyper-V is included in my EA, and I want to start looking at that as 2016 came out. They got some new features that seem kind of appetizing. Well, what if we could actually do one-click hypervisor conversions on our clusters? What if I could take a running cluster with ESX today and say, I want to run something like Nutanix is built in hypervisor, and one button, convert that. So traditionally, some of you guys are smiling, right? This is kind of magic. It's up here. It's this guy in a coat talking about stuff that sounds good on slides. Slides never fail. So we'll prove this stuff. We've got it on videos. We'll bring it to your shop. We'll go through this. Literally, instead of taking the outage of having to move all those VMs off, right? This was a literal conversion process. Even as we went in between traditional storage vendors, we move all the VMs off. We redo whatever hardware we need to. We lay down a new hypervisor, all kinds of stuff. Move those VMs back, do some large conversion process, change our network settings, do the updates we need, and power them back up, right? We're talking about a weekend plus an outage. What if I could do that conversion in less than an hour? What if I literally went host by host, and next thing you know, you're running on different hypervisors? And oh, by the way, say you got over there and you weren't completely satisfied, and I could click one button and go back again. It's all about risk reduction today. So part of me saying, how do I change? How do I remove this lock? And how do I do things? And this is where we see Nutanix taking a different view of things. For us, it's not just about the infrastructure inside your environment. I think that's a piece of it. We've got to run on a processor. That has to exist. But what if we could actually get to the point where we could move applications? What if I could not only back up to the cloud, but what if I could have DR across 2 different hypervisors? You love ESX. Your applications are supported on it. You've got 2 years of support left on it. Like, why change that in your production environment? Because you're looking at what? $1,500, $200,000, $2,500 a socket for that DR instance that's insurance we hope we never have to pay for. So we guys all have health insurance, car insurance, all that kind of stuff. If I told you I could save you 10% of your car insurance, I mean, Geico does every day. But we listen to it, right? 10% is 10%. Like, I love to not have to pay for something I hope I don't use. So what if you could leave ESX running in your production environment and use an included hypervisor in your DR environment? And know that not only could you seamlessly one-click those VMs back and forth, but that entire DR process would come up without a snag. This is the idea of app mobility fabric. So for a long time in IT, do you guys know what a fabric is? You heard that term? I mean, I've got some on, right? But I had a hard time defining fabric in my career. And probably here's one of the first times I was able to do that. So every time I looked at a fabric, I decided that was something that was woven together. So a fabric's a couple pieces of thread, right? What makes bed sheets and all kinds of stuff. For us, fabric is weaving what we call the control plane and the data plane together. So the control plane being the hypervisor. So now I'm controlling VM functionality, settings, networking, where is it running, how much resources does it have, along with the data plane that rides underneath that. So now I'm controlling replication, storage, compression, YouTube, all kinds of stuff. So as we think about moving to the cloud, we talked about the things that we needed to run. So we based on a server, what's inside that server? CPU, memory, hard drive, SSD. Sounds a lot like what I can buy from Amazon, right? CPU, memory, elastic storage, S3 storage. Very similar principles. So what if we ran that same software nested in Amazon's cloud? I'm not dealing with Amazon storage anymore. I own that storage plane. I control replication back and forth. I'm the one doing change block tracking, compression, and all kinds of stuff. And oh, by the way, I'm running on top of that, so I have the control plane for the VM too. So I choose to migrate that VM back and forth. So I choose to shut it down, push it, move data, replicate it, test it, scale it. I own both pieces of those planes I need for functions. I own the fabric in between those. So for me, it was the first time I actually understood what that fabric term meant. We've always talked about this. We've heard this in terms of technology. But now it's starting to come to life. We can actually add meat behind the things that are happening in our environment. Let's talk a little bit about the life cycle of what we brought. So our 4.6 code just released. 4.7 is going to come out later this month. You'll see another release later in October. We release very rapidly. Features come to market quickly for us. In fact, one of my biggest challenges is keeping people up to date on what's actually happening inside our platform. Like, please go read it. I don't want to have to do this another, hour session. But it's actually really cool to work for a company that's innovating. We just talked about the data center, and we've seen that it hasn't changed in 15 years. We're changing every couple of months. We bring different features, integrated DR, cross-hypervisor DR, hypervisor conversion, and what you're going to see later this year, and actually being able to DR to cloud and back. Like, those are real features and functions. That's value. And oh, by the way, you get those features when you upgrade. There's not a separate license charge. There's not some new piece of hardware to bring inside your data center. You literally click one button, one-click upgrade, and you have new features on the same hardware you purchased 2 years ago. We started shipping product in 2009. Well, started shipping product in 2011. We were founded in 2009. 2011, Westmere processors, right? That's what we launched on. So you follow Intel, Westmere, Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, Haswell, Broadwell's dropping down. So if you bought everything you needed 3 to 4 years ago, what would you still be running? Westmere. Woo, super fast. No. You're stuck in EVC modes and all kinds of stuff. But what if you could add to your infrastructure as you needed things? So not buy what you thought you needed for the next 3 years. But what if you actually grew and you had another couple hundred users, you maybe brought some Ivy Bridge, and last year you did some M&A, you took on another piece of the county or another police department, or meshed in some sheriffs, and we said, oh great, now we're getting Haswell processors. So today Broadwell is giving us a 40% uplift, dollar for dollar, over what I would have paid for those Westmere processors. So we're talking about not only bringing innovation into the software side, through the features and functionality of what we're doing, but actually talking about allowing them to use the best and latest hardware available. Again, we can mix and match processors, family storage, all kinds of stuff. It becomes less about what's underneath. Let you use the fastest stuff available. You didn't buy the bottom of the rung and hope that you're going to upgrade here one day, but you can actually buy the fastest on the market for whatever piece you needed today. You guys familiar with any of this stuff? So today, when Jim's SQL VM has a problem, you log into the hypervisor, you look at latencies and all kinds of stuff, and where's the next place we look? Storage, right? So we try to compare those two latencies. Why? Because we're praying it's actually the network guy's fault for this, right? Because he's kind of sits on the pedestal. It's never his problem. Ron was the network guy. He knows that. Never network problem.
It's not the network.
But we log into that switch anyway. And we look at latency, we try to look at bits and bytes, as if we've got some sort of tool that can actually tell us, bits per second on the network, or really we're just looking for some sort of error, some sort of abnormality. And then on top of that, we're like, was it a capacity or is it really a performance problem? Do I have any data to trend that over time? We call this console health. You're logging in 4, 5, 6 things deep. So some of you guys are in law enforcement. I always consider this a little backwards. So if I get pulled over and arrested and put in the back of the cop car, I'm innocent until proven guilty. But we all work in IT, so it's a little backwards, right? You're always guilty until you prove you're innocent. It's not me. The SQL guy ran a backup. The network guy made a change, something, right? We write defenses in email all the time, and they all come from this console. So we copy and paste it and put an Excel sheet and this graph and stuff to say, not mine, somebody else fix it. What if we could actually put that in an interface that made sense? That we took that, what's called mean time to resolution, and shortened this. Anybody's worst day is when your boss and your boss's boss and his boss's boss is standing over you saying, when's it back up? We can take that from 4 hours to 2 hours to 5 minutes, or, oh, by the way, maybe it healed itself automatically. Like, that makes happier us. We go home more happier. That makes wife happier, kids happier. How many of you guys spent vacation less holiday with your family? How many of you are doing switch upgrades or storage upgrades or some sort of thing because nobody was at work and you actually had time to do maintenance? You could do maintenance during the day. What if you could take upgrades and all kinds of stuff and let it be less about these after hours over the holiday type situations and add that time back with family? Right, time's the one thing we can't give back, so a lot of our product talks about shortening that time we need. What if we were able to bring an interface that didn't have Java and Flash and all this kind of crazy stuff and run on a tablet, phone, a laptop, from anywhere you got to and actually told you the things you needed? IOPS, latency, bandwidth, what happened, events, health, all kinds of stuff. What if we brought that consumer-grade interface into the data center, where it wasn't these separate consoles and all kinds of stuff, but it actually just told you what you needed in a matter of clicks? And oh, by the way, what if it actually trended? So we've talked about this whole add capacity, linear scale out, buy what you need now, but how do you know what you need to buy? Still math, right? You still bring an engineer in, you still look at all this kind of fun stuff, you guess. But what if we could actually tell you? What if we could watch CPU and memory and usage and not say, oh, great, Jane uploaded that 10 gig file and all of a sudden we're out of space. We knew that was an event, not a trend. What if we monitored this over time and we're able to give you real insight? Or say you want to look at landing a new application, bringing something else in. What if we could forecast that easily and tell you that you need 3 more of this type of server? This is what's coming in interfaces. This is this rich analytics. This is that automation level we've gotten to inside the world. So today, when you choose to clone a VM, how many steps is it? Pretty simple, right? Pick your template, clone, you get a little wizard, you pick your host, pick your data store, you put them home. But the reality is there's a lot of steps that went into that. You guys ever made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Pretty simple, right? 2 pieces of bread, peanut butter, and jelly. So I did this. We did this exercise in elementary school. When I was a little nerd, I thought I was going to nail this, okay? So I went through and I was like, took the lid off the peanut butter and talked about spreading it and all kinds of stuff. She gave me a big fat C. Red marks all over my paper. We're going to talk about this later today. I actually have some slides about it in that diagnostic session we're talking about. But she said, were you even in the kitchen? Did you take the twist tie off the bread? Did you look at the expiration date on the jelly? All these steps that I didn't think about. It's as simple as making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And by the way, we talked about making a sandwich. What do we really want to do? Eat it. So what if we took that same concept here? So when we clone a VM today, right, we actually have to think about which data stores they're going into. Is that data store tied to some snapshot schedule, some replication schedule? So that's a separate thing I even have to handle. Did I look at the host before I got in the wizard to remember which one had enough free space or RAM to do that to? So all of a sudden, I'm canceling that wizard 3 or 4 times, going back, trying to make those decisions. What if that was all at my fingertips? What if that was included in the interface? That's what we're doing with what we've brought with Prism. So Prism is what we call our management interface to this infrastructure. But it really is that one-click type thing. Now I'm going to say this, marketing says 1 click, it's really 4, okay? Because you have to click on the menu, you have to click on the menu items you actually want to do, you have to say yes, you really want to do it, and close away stuff. Okay?
Just down the bread.
Just down the bread. You guys deal with security?
No.
Didn't think so. Not on any CIO's like top 5 list at all. So they made me talk about this slide. We'll talk about it real fast. Nutanix was designed with security in mind. So many of the infrastructure pieces today, security was always a bolt-on. It was going back and patching something. It was an inner working of 3 or 4 different technologies to make single sign-on work correctly, or how do I log this? And all of a sudden companies like Splunk and all these different log collectors come out because we're trying to triage and understand where all these different things are happening. Do they hit my switch first, or my host first, or this VM first? How did they even get in my network? So when we talk about owning the entire stack, virtualization, server, networking, storage, we now have better control over all these pieces. There's not all these different vendors and different patches we have to keep up to be compliant. Not to mention, we actually design with the federal government in mind. Today, federal government makes up a huge piece of Nutanix of business. So you talk about all the 3-letter acronyms that exist, and every NIST and STIG type compliance that we have to go through was designed with our product. It wasn't an afterthought. So we're actually STIG compliant out of the box. You guys know what STIG is? So every time I'm in a federal government or some sort of federal entity, I can't just finish installing a piece of hardware and hand it over. I did all my part, I made sure it's all right. There's a third-party agency that comes in that has to audit that entire thing, and they look at every single firewall port, password policy, what happened, was it configured correctly, is there an extra VLAN hanging out there? Sometimes it's a 2 to 3 month process before someone can actually utilize that piece of infrastructure. Reference architecture or not, vBlock, FlexPod, doesn't matter, they had to go through this. Well, because we actually control all those things and ship from the factory the way we are, we're STIG compliant out of the box. If they choose to use our hypervisor, we're actually STIG compliant clear through VMware. no firewall policies, and who has access or role-based controls. It's all tied into our system. So most times when we look at security, we ask, say, if it's secure enough for some of those deep, dark agencies in the federal government, you think it's secure enough for your government? We have every white paper. One of the guys, Eric Hammersley, that works for us, was an advisor to the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Security. As we looked at these things, it wasn't something we decided to take lightly. We brought true experts into this field, into our business, to say, we want to design a product that we can stand behind, because when we get hacked, that's a bad day. But we also look at this through life cycle. So it's not just about was it secure today, was it secure when I installed it. It's about security a couple days down the road, a month down the road. When you get the new admin who doesn't really know what he's doing, he opened up a bunch of stuff because he read it on Google. What if we had checks in place? What if we had a baseline and we knew that, hey, if this changes, if we saw that firewall port open, if we saw some shift in IP address over here, we actually reverted it and fixed it automatically. We scan our system every 30 minutes to make sure we don't see those kind of things change within our environment. Security is a big deal. We also realize it's not just about us. So we have key management for other encryption. We have to deal with firewalls and have alliances with Palo Alto and Juniper and all kinds of stuff. We know it's just not about our platform. So you also find that we play really well with the other ecosystem vendors. It's not just about Nutanix and this one little piece inside your data center. We realize there's a top of rack switch and we go northbound into some internet world of connected things, and then we have to deal with backups and tape still going off site and all these kind of things. It's all part of the environment. We don't look at it as a siloed effect. So we talked about innovation and some of that kind of stuff. We'll run over this real quick. Is this on track for you guys? Is this making sense?
Yeah.
I really don't want to put you to sleep. I know it's 8:30 anymore. So I don't know if you guys were in here earlier enough. I got jokes. I haven't used them yet.
I heard some of them last night, Sam. Keep going.
Fine. So again, we started shipping product in 2011. 2012, we started supporting some different hypervisors. 2013, we started talking about deduplication and adding some stuff back in. 2014, we get into multi-cluster management, right? Because we all just have one site. The world's not really geographic. We all just do that. So we looked at something called Prism Central, where we can actually manage and monitor clusters from all over the world, or from the street. So we got into 2014, we realized that AWS and this built-in virtualization could be a big thing, and we talked about our hypervisor a little bit. But when we looked at that world, we said, okay, we've got things like VMware and Hyper-V and different things out here, but those don't scale well with us. So as we talk about upper ends of our environment, we don't have limits to how many nodes we get. Today, people say, oh, it's 64 nodes. Well, that's because it's VMware's limit today for the number of hosts I can put inside a cluster. As we look at designing a hypervisor that was designed for web scale, what if that's 100 hosts? What if that's 200 hosts? What if we have large enterprises or disconnected or cross-campus things that we actually want to connect? We wanted to design a hypervisor that took those things into account, that weren't single points of failure. Our hypervisor lives on every node in our cluster, the same way our interface does. So as I lose a specific server or component or something in my environment, I don't lose access to the features and functionalities I need to manage my environment. And as we look into 2016, in our 4.6 release, we literally gave people a 4x performance increase by a software update. If you go Google Nutanix 4.6 update and look on social media, you'll find all kinds of people that post it. Two things usually happen with their upgrades. One, people are happy, and other people are like, I got freaked out because I clicked upgrade and nothing happened. I thought it broke. They didn't notice VMs moved. They didn't notice anything go down. There wasn't a problem. They actually upgraded, and all of a sudden that little version number went 4.5, 4.6. What happened? But their users are like, what'd you do to the system? Like, I actually logged in this morning. It took me 5 seconds. It took me 30. Well, we just got better about the way we write queries. This is the benefits of a software-defined data center, right? We had bad admins, bad SQL queries, and we wrote better ones. We don't use SQL, but you get the point. Because we actually changed the way we did read caching and looked up stuff and auto writes, and even to the point in 4.6 where even if you have deduplication and compression checked, we don't do it just because you said so. We're actually looking at those data streams, looking at sequential and random data and all kinds of stuff, and starting to make intelligent choices about what's the best way to handle that data landing on our system. And we can turn them off. You can say, hey, I don't want it compressed. That's fine. But as we really look at efficiently using storage, why should you have to know these things? Why turn it on, test it, and turn it back off if it doesn't work? What if it just handled it for you? We look at every data stream that comes through there. Most of the standard traditional 3-tier vendors are trying to handle I/O as fast as they can. They don't know what's coming. So they're doing everything they can to get that piece of data in and out of the system. Well, we just said that our boxes aren't usually limited by CPU. That's usually the factor. So what if I borrowed 2 or 3 more CPU cycles from you to actually know what your data is doing? And oh, by the way, I own all those pieces. I understand the hypervisor, the network, and the storage, so I'm not waiting for some massive burst to come through that I don't know about, but I actually understand the workload and scale. I start making more intelligent decisions about how I handle your data, where I store that, where I put it. I love this slide. Who wants to call BS on me? 510%. It's a big number. 98% less downtime. 85% faster. Deployment of storage. So this is not us, right? It's not just because I have a badge. It's not because I wear a logo or get a paycheck. So this was IDC interviewing 15 of our customers across 15 different verticals, talking about things against EMC, NetApp, all the pods, all the different infrastructures, what they ran into. So we have a report. It's on our website, super easy to download. It actually talks about all these things. It puts numbers behind this. How do we achieve numbers like this? How do we deal with management? We talked about this in the peanut butter and jelly sandwich narrative. We don't think about how much time we spend managing IT, checking backups, moving VMs, demotioning something, doing things. All these take time. What if that was automatic? It just happened. We had to worry less about those things. Time's valuable. We want that time back. How many of you guys have sticky notes inside your monitors of projects you haven't got to for months? Those things are accomplishable as we have to keep, get away from keeping lights on and actually become value-added assets back into the business. We're not a cost center anymore. We can actually add value back into the business. So, to be any sort of player, you got to work with people. So, as we talk about the operating systems we run, we talk about the applications we work well with. There's not many out there that we don't play with. So we throw this up just to talk about whether it's AV inside VDI, whether it's microsegmentation as you look at networking stuff, whether you look at firewall support or general OS support. So we're SVVP, right? Anything Microsoft makes runs on top of our hypervisor or runs on top of ESX or Hyper-V on top of us. But the other thing we'll talk about is hardware platforms. So Nutanix sells our own device. So it's super micro under the covers. You buy an NX appliance from us, that's what's coming on. But we also sell Dell and Lenovo. So Dell's called XC, powered by Nutanix. Lenovo's called HX, powered by Nutanix. So we talked this, and we started talking about this commodity, fail-fast x86 hardware. We don't have special purpose cards, we don't care, but we do care about the end user experience, right? The same way Apple does. So today, when you look at Apple and Android, half people look at Android and say, oh, it's buggy or it doesn't work as well or whatever. Apple's kind of solid. Well, you look at the business decisions they made. Android said, hey, Samsung, HTC, whatever manufacturer, here's my OS, and all of a sudden they layer Sense and all these different applications on top of it. They control the updates, all these different pieces. Like, I want Marshmallow, it's out. And Verizon's like, not yet, sorry, we're still playing with some stuff. We got to lock it down, but we should have access to everything. Apple said, one phone, one platform. Every time somebody clicks Siri, clicks upgrade, or sends the video to grandmother, we want it to work. So it was all about that controlling the experience from start to finish, and that's the way we took the view too. So you're going to see this continue to expand as we grow. We're not going to stop here. You're going to see other server vendors appear up here in the very short term. Today, this is how we're available. We didn't want to do that white box HCL, get into the support nightmare of, well, did you buy this SSD off Newegg? Was it new, used, refurb? It just wasn't worth it. Not when we need things to actually be sustainable and work correctly. When we talk about what do we run? So some people are like, you guys are a VDI solution. Absolutely, we love VDI. It's where we cut our teeth. When we first started, 70% of our business was VDI. Who thinks VDI is an easy workload? Not really. We deal with all these boot storms and AV upgrades and golden images and updates and all kinds of stuff. And oh, by the way, who uses VDI? People. Sorry. It's that people problem again, right? Media expectation, all kinds of stuff. So VDI was a workload that we handled really well. So as we looked at VDI and we looked at these boot storms and AV scans and user data and all kinds of stuff, there was another application that really similar. It's called databases, right? Hot data, this year's financial looked a lot like that golden image. Last year's data looked a lot like user files and all kinds of stuff, a little staler. These boot storms that came along looked like reports and crazy queries and all kinds of stuff. So we handled the VDI workflow, and we started taking out SQL and Oracle and all these databases, these noisy things, what we call victims and bullies inside the data center, and started adding consistent linear performance to databases. Oh, wow. You ever made a DBA happy? DBAs in the room? I'm sorry, I don't mean to that. But traditionally, those are the guys who cared about IOPS, right? The first time we ever virtualized a database server, what did he do? Scream. God, it's slow, I don't want it. What do you want? He wanted his physical server back. If you think about what Nutanix is, that's kind of what we're giving you. We give you that virtualized world with that physical server-controlled IOP performance. We start really missing and matching what we've always craved for inside our world. So we've taken two of the top tier workloads inside the data center, VDI databases. What uses databases? Tier 1 applications. So now we've gotten through this part and we're like, all right, applications, we've run all those things, so what's left? General purpose work, what else is on the agenda? So you'll see we actually work our way down through this data center world. But you talk about branch offices, UC, Avaya, all kinds of stuff, Splunk. Splunk loves us. They want to know how many events per second can we actually run on this environment. And oh, by the way, they always start in a pilot, right? It's the first feed or two, different kinds of stuff. We get to the point where we want to be able to say, wow, how do we do this? What do we do? Well, what if it's Avaya? What if I can tell you that it costs you X thousand dollars for every 1,000 extensions you own? If it's VDI, I can tell you can do every 100 users for X number of dollars. These are the things that start making sense inside our environment. So we talked about this a little bit, where we came from, what we did. 2,600 customers across the world, over 80 countries. We're almost north of 2,000 employees today. So Nutanix is growing quick. Logo slide, you guys ever seen one of those? So, but that's really it. I wanted to thank you guys for your time. Hopefully you learned a little bit about cloud, a little bit about Nutanix, but all kinds of fun stuff. We welcome talking to you, talking to ENS about our environment, about our products. You guys have any questions?
We have a giveaway, so put your card in. We'll do that real quick on the way out. We have a drone. So any questions? Sam's going to do a similar presentation, but at a different time slot. So if you have additional questions about technology or things that are not specific to Nutanix, he'll be able to speak to that then. But this is a big opportunity to have those questions about the technology that you're hearing stuff about. So we'll have to put your card in. We'll do the drawing real quick, and I know y'all want to get to the next event and go from there.
You have your cards all taken.
Thank you.